You know, we grow up with this illusion that the best man will always win in the end. Okay, we grow up with this illusion that goodness triumphs. And I'm talking both, the best man in the sense of the morally, and the best man in the sense of being the best at the job, in terms of qualitative ability. That the best man wins. We always hope that, and we say that, and we think that, and we've grown up with these illusions that that's the case. Because, you look at all movies and shit, right? The good guy wins. Yeah, that's the story. Good triumphs over evil. But the fact of the matter is, good men rarely win in the end. I'm saying rarely, but the fact of the matter is, it's good guys, the best man almost never, if not never, wins. Okay? It's always the not quite the best man. It's sometimes, often, it's the scummiest scumbag who wins. And that's the nature of the world. It's the nature of existence. I mean, we want it to be that the moral man, the decent man, the good man, or the really hard worker, or the guy who's like really talented, we want him to win. We don't want the scumbag to win, because it's no fucking fair, right? It's no fair that the scumbag gets the hot girl. You're like this decent guy, you're a nice guy, you're kind to animals, and you love your mom, and you're good with kids, and you want to be the one who winds up with the Victoria's Secret model, right? And if we were living in a perfect world, that would be the case. But instead, who does the Victoria's Secret model hook up with? The scumbag! Yeah, the scumbag. The guy who's willing to do what it takes to win. Because that's the hard reality of it. See, the best man rarely wins. It's usually the guy who's willing to do whatever is necessary to trip up his opponents and step over them to get what he wants. That's the reality of it. You have to understand, you see, all of Western civilization is basically a striving towards the creation of a society whereby the best man will win. That's the whole point of it. See? From the very notion of, right makes might. But the fact of the matter is, and the reality of the situation is that might makes right. The golden rule. Those who've got the gold make the rules. And it's grossly unfair, but what happens in our civilization, in our rich and comfortable civilization, the one that we currently enjoy, is that we have been, deluded into thinking that reality doesn't apply to us, that good triumphs over evil and the best man will always win. But that is simply not the case. And why am I making such a big to-do about this? Well, because you see, I see a lot of guys who are really quite talented. I see a lot of men, young men, who are talented and they're good and decent, and they complain that they're getting nowhere in their lives. And well, I'm here to tell you, man, that no matter how good a guy you might happen to be, no matter how decent, you're never going to get anywhere. Just on decency, just on being the best. It's just not the way the world works. The way the world works is that the guy who has the best connections, the guy who's willing to trip up his opponents and fuck them up before they get to the finish line, the guy who is willing to do whatever is necessary to be first, he's the one who's going to win. That's the reality of it. I mean, you're in high school, right? And you go to some track meet, and who wins? The fastest runner. And I don't know, you're doing whatever competition, you're taking some tests, some math tests, for instance. And who gets the best grade? The one who studied hardest. And you go and watch movies, and what happens at the end? Well, the hero winds up with the beautiful girl, right? I mean, that's the natural order of things, you think to yourself, right? No, no. Only in juvenile situations, in trivial situations, in unreal situations, does the best man win. For instance, in running the 100 yards, right? The guy who's the fastest is going to win. The best man, the best runner is going to win. Yeah, in that case. But those cases are so unbelievably rare. They are so unbelievably rare. How many times do people run the 100 yards? Yeah, sure, at the Olympics they're running or whatever the fuck, right? And there at the Olympics, the fastest runner is going to win, and that's that, right? But what do so many of these fucking people, the Olympic athletes do? They dope themselves up to win. Yes, of course. Lance Armstrong doped himself up to the gills in order to win 7 Tours de France, right? And what was his excuse? His excuse was actually reasonable. His excuse was, everybody else was doing it. So if I didn't, I wouldn't win. Yeah, that's the reality of it. Yeah, he was a cheat. Yes, of course he was a cheat. You know, and we vilify him, not because he was a cheat, but because he got caught. Okay, that's the reality of it. That's the reality of our existence. Everybody's cheating, everybody's being a scumbag, everybody's tripping each other up in order to win, and we only get upset with them when it comes out, see? There are lots of guys who have cheated their way to victory, and no one was the wiser, and we lionize them. We think that they're, you know, hot shit. But the fact is they cheated, and we sort of suspect it. I mean, like the Lance Armstrong thing. 7 consecutive Tours de France, right? We all thought that that was kind of fishy. But at the time, we were like, oh, you know, the great Lance Armstrong. Yeah, because, see, we will ignore our suspicions so long as, you know, we are allowed to hold on to our illusions. We love the illusion of the notion that the best man wins. And we love the notion, the illusion, that there's like a heroic figure like Lance Armstrong who can win 7 Tours de France without doping himself up, right? Right, we love that illusion, but it's just not true, okay? And you know, we see it in business all the time. For instance, back in the 90s, I remember when Apple was, you know, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. You know, I was an Apple guy, and all the other friends that I had, we were also like into Apple. And we were so pissed because we would say stuff like, you know, Apple has the best operating system. It should be the dominant computer system in the world. It's much better than this crap Windows, right? And how come Microsoft is winning? Well, because they were bigger and they knew how to play the game and they tripped up Apple. And Apple made some bad decisions. And so sure, they had the best operating system at the time, but they were losing. They had like 5% market share. The company was going bankrupt. And that was the reality of it. Because even though they had the best operating system, well, you know, life does not reward whoever is best. Life rewards the person who is strongest or fastest or most willing to cheat. And that's the hard reality of it. I mean, we hate to face that, but that's the truth. Those 3 conditions, the fastest, the biggest, or the one most willing to cheat in everything in life, those are the people who win. And the best man rarely wins. The best man, the decent man, often is not this cruel world, because it is a cruel thing. The cruel world will chew up the decent man and really laugh at him. The fact of the matter is, in order to be successful, you will often have to do things that are distasteful. You will often have to do things that you find morally disgusting and despicable. But that's life. That's the reality of existence, and to pretend otherwise, to fool yourself with notions that the best man will, that's just setting yourself up for failure. See? Because most of the time, those men who thought to themselves that if they were good enough, morally and good enough in terms of putting the most effort and trying the hardest, they thought that they would win, and they got to the end of their lives and they had nothing, and they are bitter and resentful. And it's because the illusion that they held was a lie. The illusion that they believed in, that being good would get them the things that they desired, well, it's just not true. And so this is where you have to be a man and confront the fact that no matter how good you are, being good, being the best is not going to give you victory. It's not going to give you success. It's not going to help you achieve the things you want to achieve. You have to be a son of a bitch. You have to be sometimes outright evil in order to get what you want. And you have to negotiate that evil, and you have to make sure that you apply that evil a little bit like radiation, very carefully. You have to treat it as if it were radiation. You have to, just have lead-lined gloves, but you can't shy away from applying it in order to get what you want. You can't fool yourself into thinking that goodness alone will get you what you want, because it will not. And I wish I were wrong on this issue. I wish it were the case. I wish with all my heart, truly, that just being good enough, that being good in a qualitative sense and in a moral sense would give me and you everything that we desired. But that's just not the reality, and it never will be the reality. So the sooner you make friends with this reality and learn to accept it, the sooner you realize that sometimes to get what you want, you have to be just a nasty piece of work and do some things that are truly awful in order to get what you want. Well, the earlier you make peace with this truth, the better it will be for you in the long run. Because you have no idea how many men are out there who are in their last decades of their life miserable, homeless, with nothing, and so angry and bitter because they were good. They were good men. They were good and decent, and they worked hard, and they were the best at their profession, and they ended up with nothing.